Today we're going to talk about raised beds. So why people use raised beds. We're going to talk about 5 reasons, 5 benefits of using raised beds. And then I want to also talk to you about 2 types of raised beds that you might want to think about if maybe you are starting a new garden. So there are 5 reasons that I personally have that you might want to consider using a raised bed. And the 5th reason is probably the biggest reason, so hang on for that one for sure. Now, a lot of people ask me, I have a big garden, and they say, why did you go with raised beds? For one, they can't understand, why didn't I just put them in ground? And another thing they ask me is, why didn't you stuff even more beds in here? You could put like 8 more beds in. So we'll get to that as well. But the first reason for wanting to use raised beds personally in this garden, number 1, aesthetics. And I think depending on what you want for your garden, you might have an aesthetic that you're going after. And for me, it was these beautiful raised wooden beds. I love this look. So the aesthetic piece of it, that component of building your beautiful garden space, is something that you want to take to heart. You want to design your garden ahead of time, and one of those things is figuring out which type of raised bed, or do you want in ground, whatever works for you, but aesthetically, this is what worked for me. Now, the second reason that you really want to think about when you are designing your garden and picking in ground versus raised bed, when you work in a raised bed, you have something called soil control. I don't have control of what is under here, and it is clay, and it is like rock under there. Now, that is not to say that that wouldn't change over time. I have done no-dig beds when I lived in Austin, Texas, and they work beautifully, but they take time to cultivate that soil. So if you're trying to start a garden and you want to get things right in right away, in ground might take years to get the soil just right, but I can control the soil from the start with a raised bed. So that was really important to me. When I moved here to Pennsylvania, I wanted to get things off the ground as quickly as possible. So soil control is number 2, and it's an important one. Number 3, water control. So if you do have clay soil like I have, guess what? Not good drainage. That means water is going to be pooling under there. It's not going to drain well, not good for most roots of most plants. Very good drainage in your raised beds. Now that also depends on what soil you put in here and how you care for your soil and the soil health, but typically the drainage in a raised bed is going to be much, much better than when you go with in ground. Now, the 4th reason is pest protection. Now, you can't see it, but underneath every single one of these beds is something called hardware cloth. I don't know why. Why is it called hardware cloth? It's not cloth. It is like metal. It's like a chicken wire. And that's going to prevent any kind of voles or groundhogs from coming up and under and eating everything in the bed. That is super important. Now, side note, many people told me just put a weed barrier underneath your raised bed. And I was like, no. Want to know why? I want the earthworms to come up from the soil and fill up my bed. Earthworms are essential for soil health. People told me they'll never get through that clay soil. Well, I just want to let you know that I have tons of earthworms in these beds. So I don't recommend putting a weed barrier underneath your raised bed. Put a hardware cloth so that you have something metal protection from those animals, all right? Now, number 5, this is the one I said is probably the most important for most people. Do you want to save your knees and your back? Because if you do, you want to have a raised bed. I'm able to sit on it, so when I'm planting things, I can be here. It is a lot harder to get down to the ground. In-ground beds are tough on the back and they're tough on the knees. The higher you make these beds, the easier it is on your body. I don't know about you, but I plan on gardening into my 90s. But I need to take care of my back and my knees, so raised beds, again, were for me. Now, next topic. What type of raised beds are there? Because this is not your only option. These are wood beds. I love them aesthetically. Speaking of wood beds, it is important what type of wood you pick. And so this is cedar wood, and I'm going to tell you some options of where to get beds like this. This is cedar wood. That is some of the toughest wood. It's going to last the longest. So you don't want to go with a cheap wood, and you don't want to go with a treated wood at all, because you don't want any toxins and anything toxic with the vegetables. So that's my recommendation. And again, I've got a source for you on where to get beds like this. Now, the next option is to go with a metal bed. So I don't know if you've ever seen the Birdie's metal beds from Epic Gardening, but I have a great discount for you below, and they're actually having the biggest sale right now ever for Memorial Day. So we'll talk about that in a second, but the metal raised beds are fantastic. Now, some people like the metal beds better because A, they like the aesthetic look of it. They're gorgeous. And B, they probably might last a little longer than wood over time. So they are a great option. It really just depends what you're looking for aesthetically, how long you want them to last, and how much money you want to spend, right? Okay, all of that comes down to, yes, money. Building these beds, which my husband did for me, was very expensive because cedar wood is very expensive. These beds are 4x8. And I love them, and he did an amazing job. It took months and months for him to build these beds. I have 8 4x8s, and then I have 2 on the corner that are 4x4. A lot of work. Cedar wood is very expensive, but they look great and they do the job, right? Epic Gardening now has a cedar bed that is basically the same size and probably cost less than what we paid to build it ourselves. If I had to do it over, I would buy these beds from Epic Gardening. They didn't have these when I built the garden. There is a Memorial Day sale, and the cedar beds are on sale, which is so rare. Not to mention, I can get you a 5% discount code with my ambassador discount. So definitely take advantage of that. If you're building a new garden and you want to try a raised bed, look at the Epic Gardening. I will put the links below, and make sure you use the discount code on top of the sale price. You cannot beat it. Again, if I had to do it over, all of these beds would be from Epic Gardening. Now, they also have the metal Birdie beds that I was just talking about, and the Birdie's metal beds are absolutely gorgeous. They are also on sale. They are on a bigger sale. You get 25% off any of the Birdie's beds, and you get an additional 5% with my discount. You can't go wrong with that. So it's springtime. You're hopefully starting your garden. Don't wait to do it. Pick metal bed or wood bed, cedar. Get the one that works for you, and then just get started. I'm here to help people grow their own food. I'm here to help people see that it's not about a green thumb, it's just about understanding a few basics. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Which raised bed should you get? Why should you get a raised bed if that is something that is for you? If you liked the video, please give me a like, give me some comments below, and definitely do not miss this sale. It is only going to be for a few days. It's the Memorial Day sale. Now, this is 2024 whenever you watch this video, but the discount code, the 5% off, will work on everything. Oh, I forgot to mention, all of their, I think almost all of their garden tools are also on sale, and you get my 5% on top of it. So don't miss out, get what you need, and grow a healthy garden.